So this space obviously is where the big Rhino greenhouse was. So you said we're subsiding a bit down that corner, and now it's gone. It's opened up a big new opportunity.
It has indeed.
So what is the plan for this area?
It's an opportunity for an arbour, a seating area. Catherine had a swing seat lower down that rotted last winter, so she doesn't have that anymore.
Right.
But this is a nice spot for a seating area, and it's just crying out for some exuberant planting as well. I want jungle foliage here. I want shrubs, trees, things that make it feel private.
Enclosed.
Yeah, enclosed. Yeah, absolutely.
Brilliant. It's south facing that way, isn't it?
South is more. So the sun comes up over there.
Okay.
And sets over there.
Okay.
So south is kind of that way. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's getting full sun for all morning, most of the afternoon, and then going around that way.
And then it comes round, and in the evening it's kind of over the hill. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So it's a nice large space, this, and you've got obviously power from the greenhouse, which you can use for lighting and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah. And you've still got some of your plants in this area.
A few succulent things around here. Some interesting. This thing here, which has just stabbed me, is a Hesperoyucca. Used to be in the genus Yucca.
Okay.
And was split out into its own genus. This one's Hesperoyucca peninsularis. Was a monotypic genus with just whipplei for some time, but peninsularis is another species. It's monocarpic, so behaves like an agave, but is more akin to yucca.
So another drought-tolerant plant.
Yes, absolutely.
Fantastic.
Absolutely. And shall we talk about the cycads here as well?
Let's look at them, because we've got the Cycas revoluta in shot, which is a fantastic looking plant.
Yeah.
And I think, obviously, just out of view, but we'll put the camera in another angle in a second, we've got this stunning Cycas over here, which in the last video, last September when I came round, you were talking about how you were going to overwinter it in situ. So let's have a closer look at that.
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
So, Cycas panzhihuaensis, an almost unpronounceable Chinese name. Obviously, revoluta is a Japanese cycad. Panzhihuaensis comes from the Sichuan region of China. Hardy similarly to about -6, and hopefully I've been able to, or will manage to extend that hardiness by protecting in years to come with polycarbonate, a roof, which certainly I did do last year, stuffing the sides with straw, and it's managed to protect the foliage and keep the plant alive. This was watered like crazy in the spring and rewarded me with a new flush of leaves, which it was due to do. And talking to growers in Cornwall, I believe that where revoluta can skip a couple of years or even 3, panzhihuaensis is more prone to flushing every year, interestingly. And it was always touted as the best cycad for the UK climate. I've had my doubts over the years, but I believe that's still the case. And while hardiness might be -6, if you give it a shelter, if you protect it, hopefully I can get it through future winters. Only one winter gone so far, so it is early days to be boasting, but nevertheless, it's growing well. It's alive and well, as is the revoluta. So yes, very happy with how that's performing so far.
Fantastic, and obviously you've gone through the process of sowing the seed of this plant, watching it grow, potted on, finally planted out last year, and then you took that risk of planting it out, and you've been rewarded, like you say, with a beautiful flush of new leaves this year, and it looks absolutely fantastic. And it is a contrast between itself and the revoluta next to it. They are distinct, they are very different.
They are, aren't they? Yeah.
You can definitely tell them apart, and both well worth growing.
It has an unusual caudex, does panzhihuaensis. It's got this strange spongy texture to it, and 23 years of growth from seed there. The seed came from jungle seeds originally, one of my most prized plants, I think. So obviously we've got lots of succulents here, but I just really like the mesems. This particular Delosperma John Prophet has just covered carpeted a wide area. It's actually burying a cactus or two in its vigour, and was an absolute carpet of colour in May, June time. It's flowered out, but then recently is now coming back into flower. And a garden with a lot of walls and a lot of steps needs plants that trail, and it's doing the job of that beautifully there. As I say, it's just the colour of the flowers is just fantastic, and one I wouldn't be without.
And it's obviously got through the winter and spread.
Yeah, I've been growing it a few years now, but to get the carpeting effect is, having seen images of Californian gardens, this is the look I'm trying to achieve, that carpet of succulents that you can get in a warmer climate. This one and Delosperma cooperi, which is just out of shot over there, also has this exuberant vigour, flowers profusely. I'm trying various other mesems around the garden, but those are the two that I would say are really the top performers among the genus Mesembryanthemaceae, or the family of them, Delosperma being one of the more reliable. I grow a few other mesems. Russia pulvinaris is one that should be hardy in the garden. I'm still trying to establish that one. I've tried various others, but yeah, these two are the best.
Fabulous. So Joe, last time we visited the garden, the polyphylla was a double header.
Yes.
You can obviously see it's been flowering away again.
Yeah.
But now it looks a bit different.
It's a triple-headed plant now. We've got one spiral here, one here, and one here. And I don't know why it's done this, and I don't know why plants do this. It's been suggested that it might be due to a high nitrogen content in the soil. That may be true. I mean, this level was added, and I did dig out a lot of the clay soil that was in there, and I added a lot of gravel and grit. But to a certain depth, there is probably more soil than I would like there to be in this particular raised bed. I'm not disappointed with the plant. It's interesting, and as you can see, it's got lots of seed heads on it this year, despite not finding a pollen donor for the timing of when this particular plant flowered. A few people had the benefit of pollen from my plant to pollinate their own with, but this year I've left it to nature, so it'll be interesting to see what comes of that one. But yes, there is another mature aloe polyphylla in the garden, so I've not had two plants in flower at the same time yet. Hopefully next year that will be the case. And
it's interesting, the orientation of the three heads. You've got two almost looking up, but the one at the front here is, it's at 90 degrees. It's looking towards
and I think
here.
Probably vertically would be the way to grow aloe polyphylla. We had the benefit of seeing them at St Michael's Mount in Cornwall in the spring, and growing in a cliff would be very much how they would grow, and to plant it horizontally in a raised bed is probably not the best strategy. If I could maybe build up this with rocks and plant into that, just so that you've got no water collecting in the crown, really, that would be how the plant would probably prefer to grow, and maybe that's why it's done what it's done. Maybe it's doing what it prefers.
So every year we've looked at this stunning agave, and every year I'm impressed by the sheer size of it and statuesqueness of it, and it gets bigger and better every year.
Yes, it does, and I think the impressive size of an agave is one of the things that enhances the appearance, if you like. It was acquired as Agave Salmiana ferox, which I'm very sure it isn't. It might be a hybrid with Asperima, which I may have mentioned in the past. But I would say it's probably double the size it was 3 or 4 years ago now. It's really got some width on these leaf bases, hasn't it? And
it's a big Bruce, really. Look at the size of the base of them. It's just, it's
absolutely.
It's colossal. I'm sure it weighs quite a lot.
I'm sure it does. And I do protect this. I have to, or I believe I have to ensure that it stays dry in the winter, which is increasingly a challenge.
Of course.
A single sheet of polycarbonate, which has kind of inadvertently slipped a little bit on one side, so it's become bent.
Okay.
But that's just perfect, because I can kind of taper it down at the front and fix it with wood, just so it's a slightly less of a wind sail, because that is a problem
when the wind's coming in.
And I've had to rescue sheets of polycarbonate from neighbouring property before now. But hopefully this is here to stay.
Hopefully, and obviously with a big established plant like this, got no issues with the dry weather because it's got its roots all the way through this bed. And
it hasn't missed a beat, this thing.
Hasn't, has it?
No.
Absolutely fantastic. And neither has the florifera by the side of it.
The Yucca florifera.
Taller and taller.
I always had my doubts about the hardiness of that particular species. I can safely say, it seems to be fully hardy, doesn't get any protection. And I would guess now it's approaching 6 feet of height.
Yeah, it's a big plant now.
Yeah.
I think it's winter wet was meant to be the issue with it, but obviously we've gone through a very, very wet winter.
Absolutely.
And it's still looking in tip-top condition.
Absolutely. And I've probably had that maybe 8 years, 9 years. And it came to me as a small plant about this big. And it's been planted out all that time and just grown away, really,
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah. I mentioned Hesperoyucca, and this thing here is a little bit swamped with the dreadful oxalis, but now it's gaining some size. It's worth talking about, really, and this is Hesperoyucca whipplei. Very, very blue.
Very blue.
It's actually very, very sharp as well.
Right.
It's a double-headed plant, or it's offset, and eventually could reach proportions of maybe a 5 feet across sphere of very, very pointed leaves. It may need moving if it's going to get that big, but it's really growing now anyway. It's really, really growing. And also, while we're on the topic, there is an agave offset that's coming up
right at the back there, yes.
And it's definitely not any of the others. I think this has produced an offset there, and I think that's what
with the
that
first
is.
offset.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
It looks quite big already, doesn't it?
It does. Got a bit chunky at the base. It probably is this. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know earlier we were talking about you like obviously the arid style planting, but you like the jungle, the big leaves as well.
Yeah.
But do you think this year, with it being so dry, that it's really benefited having so many areas of different arid plants?
Absolutely.
Up here?
Absolutely. Obviously, this garden is different because it's on levels. I haven't got a hose pipe that reaches this high up the garden, and I'd like to establish jungly plants up there.
Yes.
So I'm hoping for plenty of wet seasons to come to get the plants established.
Yeah.
But here, I haven't watered these plants at all, and some of them have suffered a little bit. Even the agaves look like they could have, use a bit more water.
Yeah.
Aloe polyphylla prefers a bit more water in the warmer months, but it's surviving. It's fine. It can cope with the drought conditions. It's a bit less work to do.
Yes.
Having some arid planting.
Yeah.
And I do love these plants. I think they're very exotic.
Yes. Oh, they're very exotic, but in a very different way from the big foliage style plants.
Yeah.
And obviously it's something you're passionate about propagating with your greenhouse. We've looked at and all the different ones you're growing, the hybrids. So it's great to see.
Absolutely.
And it'd be interesting to see when we come back in the future, when we look up at the area above, which is going to be, like you said, a more secluded jungly style area.
Sure.
So it'd be great to see that as well.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.